We have one set of laws in this country, and they apply to everyone.
Do they, though? Hi, I'm Suri Crowe, and you are watching the MeidasTouch network. It seems to me that Republicans don't believe that the rule of law applies to them at all. The GOP mantra, in my opinion, is rules for thee, but not for me. I am not a lawyer. I am a journalist, and facts matter to me. Accuracy, that is the bread of my trade. And since the Constitution is supposed to be the guiding star for our democracy, I have been studying constitutional law for the last few days to understand some of the situations that our country is facing at the moment. And here's what I've learned. The 14th Amendment states that if one is to be eligible for President of the United States, you must be native born, at least 35 years of age, and not having engaged in an insurrection or a rebellion against the United States. I mean, it's just three things, pretty low bar, I mean, if you ask me. And according to Section 3 of the 14th Amendment, which, by the way, was adopted into the Constitution to prevent former Confederate leaders from returning to power after the Civil War. According to that Section 3, Donald Trump is not eligible to run for president. Just reading that amendment or that section, because he engaged in a violent insurrection or rebellion on 1 January 6, 2021. We all saw it. There's videotape. And what I also learned while I was doing my little constitutional law study is that more people died in connection to January 6, a total of 9, than did the one soldier at Fort Sumter in 1861. So hopefully that gives you some context as to how serious January 6 really was. It was a violent assault on our democracy, and we need to remember that. Now, this matter of eligibility for Trump came before the Colorado Supreme Court recently, and they agreed in a 4-3 decision that Trump is ineligible to run for office. He was struck from the ballot. He's back on the ballot as I'm recording this because the court issued a stay until their decision is either upheld or more than likely, in my opinion, decided by the U.S. Supreme Court. But the rule of law itself is pretty damn clear. It says it right here. No person shall be a senator, representative in Congress, or elector or president and vice president, or hold any office, civil or military, in the U.S. or under any state who, having previously taken an oath to support the Constitution, you know that part where the president puts their hands on a Bible in front of the chief Supreme Court justice and they swear an oath to uphold the Constitution. That's what they're talking about right there. Shall have engaged in insurrection or rebellion against the same, or given aid and comfort to the enemies thereof. Like, if you did any of that described right there, then you are not eligible to run, according to Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. Here's what conservative and former federal judge J. Michael Luttig had to say about Trump's eligibility under constitutional law.
But upon thinking about it seriously, I think it's crystal clear, and it will be crystal clear to the American public, that it's the Constitution of the United States that's disqualifying the former president from higher office if he is to be disqualified. To speak to the political warriors, it's not President Joe Biden, it's not the Democrats, it's not the anti-Trumpers. It's the Constitution of the United States. And that's why I've said over the past week that this case tests America's commitment to its own democracy, the Constitution, and the rule of law.
But what frustrates me is that apparently the rule of law as laid out in our Constitution only applies to some of us. And according to MAGA World or MAGA Logic, which that in itself is an oxymoron, they are not part of that group. And therefore, by fascist reasoning, the 14th Amendment, or any law for that matter, does not apply to them or their dear leader.
How is it that they can just argue they have absolute immunity?
Jim, it's an astonishing proposition. Of course, I practice law with John Lauro, both criminal defense lawyers, Trump's lead counsel, and he's an audacious defender. But John has outdone even himself here. If presidents had absolute immunity, Jim, a presidential election would become a stampede for the criminally minded so they can get to the Oval Office. It's not just election overturn. Where would it stop? They could do bank robberies, kidnappings, murders. That is inimical to American law. There's no hint of such absolute immunity anywhere in our Constitution.
I mean, seriously, can you imagine if President Biden stole an ice cream cone from an ice cream truck? That would be the lead story at Fox for weeks. And yet we're talking about somebody who has 4 criminal indictments, 91 felony counts, was found liable for rape in a civil court case with E. Jean Carroll. Like, this guy is the leading Republican contender. Like, we really are in an upside down world. The current extreme right bench of the Supreme Court has overturned long-held American legal precedents like Roe, for example, and several others because they claim to be originalist or textualist, meaning that they directly interpret or divine the wording in the Constitution as it reads without taking into account historical or social context, or often even the rest of the Constitution itself. Republicans have repeatedly used the originalist or textualist argument to weaken gun laws and essentially make guns available to pretty much anyone in America these days, including domestic terrorists and abusers. But here's what the Second Amendment actually says, and I'm reading it. A well-regulated militia. Let me say that again. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Notice that very first part about it being a well-regulated militia. Do you ever hear the gun cult or the right-wing extremists talk about that? No. All they focus on, they cherry pick, is the right to bear arms, taking away that first part, that original text of the Constitution. And as a result, we have the weakest gun laws in the Western world and the insane gun violence and death rates to prove it. The fascists love to twist our own Constitution on its head to gaslight us into their lies. One of my favorite legal minds to follow is former federal prosecutor Glenn Kirshner. He said this earlier this week, quote, "Let's be crystal clear. Allowing an insurrectionist to remain on the presidential ballot would constitute real election interference. We, the people, are sick and tired of Trump and his lackey lawyers telling us that up is down and day is night, in is out, and wrong is right." Nice rhyme, Glenn.
I gotta use some Tic Tacs just in case I start kissing her. You know, I'm automatically attracted to beautiful. I just start kissing them. It's like a magnet. You just kiss. I don't even wait. And when you're a star, they let you do it. You can do anything.
Whatever you want.
Grab them by the pussy.
It still blows my mind and makes me personally sick as a woman that that man who said that before he was elected in 2016 got into the White House. And it has only gotten worse for us. And according to his reasoning, because he's a star and a former president, he gets to sexually assault women and break laws and have full immunity and do whatever the hell he wants. I mean, is that where we are now? We are constantly being gaslit by this sociopathic platform that the MAGA right, which is now the Republican Party, let's just be honest, there are no moderates in the Republican Party. They've left. The Adam Kinzingers, they have left. They are not there. This is now MAGA world, and they are spinning lies to try and gaslight us into buying their snake oil. And you know, we have to stand up and say enough. Like Jack Smith says, we the people decide that nobody is above the law. Certainly not a former U.S. president. I was listening to Karen last night on Legal AF. And she really said it, that Trump has never been held accountable. His entire life, he's been criming and getting away with things, and he has never been held truly accountable. And he made his way into the Oval Office. And even now, no judge has really toed the line with him. He's getting breaks that really, I can't imagine any other defendant would get. I've covered a lot of trials, and with the threats, the violent threats that he's throwing out nonstop, like these, gag orders are entirely narrow, and he's still flying around in his private jet when people's lives are at risk. Like, he seems to just have no consequences for his terrible criminal behavior. And I, for one, have had it. I'm with Karen. Like, let's go. He needs to go to trial and face a jury of his peers and needs to be held accountable for what he has done. I also can't wait to see his handpicked Federalist justices on the Supreme Court squirm their way out of this 14th Amendment thing, because I do believe that they are going to take this case. That's just my amateur guess. Because according to legal experts that I've been studying, it is an open and shut case. If we're going to be talking about textualism or originalism, like there's really no question. Sidney Blumenthal, who is a Lincoln scholar and a former Clinton presidential advisor, says this, quote, "The conundrum for the Supreme Court, it can rescue Trump only by shredding originalism and textualism. And that is the argument that Clarence Thomas and Samuel Alito and Gorsuch and Coney Barrett and Kavanaugh love to hide behind. That is the way that the right-wing Supreme Court has been built. Well, we're originalists. We're textualists. We're just reading what it says right here. Well, let's see how they handle this. Let's see if they know that the jig is up. I live in Virginia, where 2 civil rights activists recently filed an injunction in federal court asking a judge to remove Trump from the ballot here. So I am curious to see how it plays out here. I don't know. I have a feeling he'll be back on the ballot in Virginia. So anyway, I guess we're going to find out how much the rule of law actually applies to the person who once held the highest office in the land. And will he be legally cleared to hold that office again? Will the rule of law hold? Why do we have laws if we, the people, are not going to follow them? And there shouldn't be 2 systems of justice. I mean, let's be real. We know there are. But if we can't hold a former United States president to account for what he's done, then that really tells me a lot about the state of our democracy. If that is our guiding light, our president, an office that is supposed to be esteemed and respected, are we going to allow Donald Trump to be back there again? My God. Not if I have anything to do with it. Anyway, my name is Suri Crowe for the MeidasTouch Network. Thank you for watching and joining me here on this pro-democracy movement. It matters, and I hope to see you back here very soon. Peace.
Thanks so much for watching. We're only a few subscribers short of 2 million subs. Please subscribe right now to the MeidasTouch YouTube channel for free and help us grow this unapologetically pro-democracy network.